Government expects job creation law to prevent corruption. Pefindo affirmed Barito Pacific single A rating. Good afternoon, viewers. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from the economic, business, and capital market sectors. With me, Fajar Wayong, this is Market Headlines. Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Erlangga Hartarto, assessed that the practice of corruption has had a negative impact on the Indonesian economy. Therefore, the presence of the job creation law is expected to play a role in efforts to prevent corruption through increasing transparency. Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Erlangga Hartarto, assessed that the practice of corruption has had a negative impact on the Indonesian economy, including hindering the rate of investment, economic growth, and creating job opportunities. For this reason, Erlangga said that the formation of the job creation law was one of the steps to prevent potential acts of corruption through increasing transparency in various sectors.
Untuk meningkatkan transparansi di sektor tata ruang, pertanahan, penyederhanaan izin, di sektor berusaha, kepastian layangan dalam investasi, memudahkan UMKM untuk berusaha, peningkatan jaminan hukum bagi usaha dengan penerapan ultimum remedium yang berkaitan dengan sanksi. Pemerintah mendorong transformasi perekonomian nasional dengan harapan Indonesia mampu keluar dari middle income trap.
Erlangga also ensured that the government was committed to prioritizing efforts to prevent and eradicate corruption from upstream to downstream. This is done through structuring policies and regulations in the form of instructions, directives, and statutory regulations. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel. Meantime, the Finance Ministry claims have taken various actions to prevent corruption in terms of state revenue, one of which is by implementing integrated supervision and ensuring that tax compliance is continuously improved. The Ministry of Finance ensures that efforts to prevent corruption are carried out in the capacity to boost state revenues. Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani explained that the ministry has encouraged the implementation of a corruption prevention system in state revenue policies, such as integrating import quotas by utilizing existing import data. In addition, the Ministry of Finance has also increased the validity of the mandatory payment for mineral and coal non-tax state revenues.
Kementerian Keuangan telah melakukan peningkatan validitas wajib bayar penerimaan negara bukan pajak mineral dan batu bara atau PNBP Minerba. Di dalam rangka sekali lagi mengoptimalkan penerimaan negara dari sektor minerba, juga untuk memastikan kepatuhan dari para wajib pajak di sektor minerba.
Still related to efforts to prevent corruption, the Ministry of Finance has also developed a reform of the core tax administration system. This is expected to continue to strengthen tax institutions to be strong, full of integrity, and professional. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel. The Minister of Industry, Agus Gumiwang, feels that the Hanover Messe 2021 event will open the world's eyes to the potential of Indonesian industry. He also said that Indonesia must be proud as the only ASEAN country as official partner at the Hanover Messe 2021. Minister of Industry Agus Gumiwang Kartasasmita said that the Hanover Messe 2021 event would open the world's eyes to the great potential of the Indonesian industry towards the 4.0 industry. Not only that, this event is also an opportunity for Indonesia to campaign for the roadmap of making Indonesia 4.0 to the world by targeting Indonesia to become one of the 10 largest economies in the world by 2030. Likewise, the participation represented by 156 Indonesian exhibitors will be the best opportunity for Indonesia to benchmark the latest technology.
Indonesia aspires by 2030 to become one of the 10 largest economies in the world. There are 5 priority sectors, namely, number 1, food and beverage industry, number 2, automotive industry, number 3, electronic industry, number 4, chemical industry, and 5, textile and apparel industry, which cumulatively contribute 70% of total manufacturing GDP, and 65% manufacturing export, and 60% manufacturing workforces.
The Ministry of Industry said that it had carried out several programs to accelerate the implementation of Industry 4.0 in Indonesia, including by compiling the Indonesian Industry 4.0 Readiness Index, which is an independent assessment to measure the readiness of implementing Industry 4.0 by companies. From Jakarta, Ade Firmansyah, IDX Channel.
Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry or KADIN puts criticism on government's demand to force business players paying full religious allowance on time. Previously, the Minister of Manpower Ida Fauzia has announced that the 2021 religious holiday allowance must be given in full to employees without installments. The payment is given at the latest only until D-1 Eid al-Fitr. Head of KADIN Jakarta, Diana Dewi, stated that government must understand that not all business owners can pay full religious allowance on time. Moreover, many owners have to shut their business down last year.
Bahwa semua perusahaan harus membayar THR paling lambat adalah -1 hari Idul Fitri. Kami dari KADIN DKI menyambut baik apa yang sudah disampaikan oleh pemerintah. Tetapi kami juga memberikan masukan, ada aspirasi dari teman-teman yang khususnya para UMKM pada saat tahun 2020 tidak beroperasi selama pandemi. Jadi mereka berharap bahwa bisa membayar THR-nya sesuai dengan kondisi perusahaan masing-masing, sehingga kemungkinan tidak dibayarkan 1 bulan gaji atau 1 bulan gaji pokoknya, tapi mereka akan menghitung secara proporsional di mana mereka beroperasi pada tahun 2020, misalkan hanya 2 bulan terakhir di penghujung tahun. Jadi mereka berharap bahwa mereka.
Market headlines will be right back. Stay tuned.
Bisa tidak sih benar-benar dijadikan fokus utama dari mata pencaharian?
Kalau untuk jadi mata pencaharian utama sebenarnya saat ini bisa, karena saat ini kan kondisinya semua itu sosial media sudah semakin berkembang pesat, dan menurut aku kesempatannya masih besar, tapi ya tetap diingat tidak bisa instan dan harus komitmen. Pengen banget ke Derawan buat menyelam scuba diving.
PT Garuda Indonesia Persero Tbk telah melakukan pemutusan kontrak penyewaan 12 pesawat Bombardier CGR-1000.
Kita memutuskan untuk mengembalikan 12 pesawat bombardir CRJ-1000.
Pemerintah berencana memberikan insentif pajak penjualan atas barang mewah atau PPNBM untuk kendaraan bermotor.
Tujuan dari insentif ini adalah dalam rangka mendorong pemulihan ekonomi lebih cepat.
Welcome back to Market Headlines. And now we're moving to the latest story about COVID-19 vaccines. Minister of Research and Technology Bambang Brojonegoro hopes that Merah Putih vaccine is able to fight a new strain of COVID-19, which continues to mutate and also infect Indonesia.
Minister of Research and Technology and Head of National Research and Innovation Agency Bambang Brojonegoro delivered the latest updates related to the development of Merah Putih COVID-19 vaccine. Bambang Brojonegoro hopes that the vaccine will be effective against various variants of COVID-19. This is because Merah Putih vaccine seeds were developed using virus isolates in Indonesia, and therefore it perfectly matched for Indonesia. Merah Putih COVID-19 vaccines is planned to be used as a booster to maintain public immunity. It is known that immunity obtained from vaccines or natural infections may not be permanent, so periodic vaccinations will be needed to maintain the immunity. On the other hand, Rector of Airlangga University, which is one of the institutions that are developing vaccines, Muhammad Nasi, is optimistic that Merah Putih vaccine for COVID-19 can be mass-produced by the end of 2021. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Yes, viewers, vaccines are crucial for bringing the coronavirus outbreak under control. Not only relying on imported ones, the government supports the domestic COVID-19 vaccines. So the progress is that the head of Food and Drugs Regulatory Agency, Penny Lukito, says several higher education and research institutions in Indonesia is now developing COVID-19 vaccine. And this development is coordinated by the Ministry of Research and Technology or National Innovation Research Agency under the Merah Putih Vaccine Consortium. And so let's see the institutions that are currently working on local COVID-19 vaccines to the first graphic. In the first graphic, we can see that institutions that are currently working on developing Indonesia's COVID-19 vaccines. The first one is Airlangga University. The second one is Eichmann Institute for Molecular Biology. And the third one is Indonesian Institute of Science. And then Gajah Mada University. University of Indonesia also participated in the developing COVID-19 vaccines in Indonesia. And then last, Bandung Institute of Technology. The data is taken from the Ministry of Health. The development of the Merah Putih vaccine is one of the innovations that have been regulated by the government in Presidential Decree number 18 of 2020 concerning the national team for COVID-19 vaccine development acceleration. And now Merah Putih vaccine is currently in the laboratory research stage. The Ministry of Health has allocated hundreds of billions of funds to support domestic vaccine development. And let's see the budget through the next graphic. So in the second graphic, we can see the budget allocated of COVID-19 vaccines development. The first category is domestic vaccines research, allocated by 400 billion rupiah. And then for a vaccination program, as much as 130 billion rupiah. Well, compared to the vaccination program itself, the research and development budget is way lower. Plus, if we compare it to other large countries, and let's say United States of America or USA, our budget available for this research was relatively small. In the United States, they provide research funding of $1 billion towards every vaccine initiative. As a result, more than a third of the U.S. population has received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, and more than a fifth is fully vaccinated. And let's see the U.S. vaccination progress in the next graphic. So we can see the U.S. vaccination progress. The first thing to highlight is 119.2 million people, or 35.9% of the population has received at least one dose. And then 72.6 million people, or 21.9% of the population, are fully vaccinated. The data is taken from Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. A single-day record 4.6 million vaccine doses were reported administered in the U.S. That brings the daily average of reported doses administered over the past week to 3.1 million. And how about Indonesia? Let's see how the vaccination goes so far in the next graphic. In Indonesia, the development of COVID-19 vaccination program, we can see on January 27, the first dose, more than 300,000, while the second dose, only 66. On February 18, 1.2 million on the first doses, and the second dose, 668,000. On March 19, 5.1 million first dose, and then 2.2 second dose. On April 7, 9.2 million first dose, and then 4.6 million second dose of COVID-19 vaccination. The data is taken from Ministry of Health. The latest data show that until April 2021, Indonesia has reached 12.7 million vaccinations. With this achievement, Indonesia managed to occupy the 8th position in the country that scored the most vaccination achievements in the world. The mass vaccination program has been running according to the target set, which is 10 million vaccination per month. The daily injection reached 500,000 and 50 around 2.5 million a week, or 10 million per month. And that is indeed on track according to the availability of the vaccines. So viewers, the speed of vaccination is not only for pursuing the target, but also depending on the availability of the vaccine, as higher education and research institutions in Indonesia is now developing COVID-19 vaccines, and hopefully the domestic vaccines can cover all the needs, and later Indonesia can be less dependent to imported vaccines. And stay tuned on Market Headlines. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Sobat Milenial, berikut adalah pilihan investasi untuk Sobat Milenial. Yang pertama adalah tabungan di bank. Nah, tabungan di bank ini sifatnya sangat liquid, jadi dapat diambil kapanpun dan dalam bentuk cash. Yang kedua adalah deposito. Deposito dapat diambil ketika jatuh tempo dengan tenor tertentu dan imbal hasilnya 5-6% per tahun. Dan yang ketiga adalah investasi dalam bentuk obligasi. Nah, obligasi ini dibagi dua. Ada obligasi yang diterbitkan oleh pemerintah dan ada obligasi yang diterbitkan oleh perusahaan swasta. Yang keempat, investasi saham. Dengan berinvestasi saham, kita akan mendapatkan dividen atau bagi hasil dari perusahaan. Dan yang kelima adalah investasi reksadana. Reksadana adalah produk investasi yang dikelola oleh manajer investasi. Dalam reksadana dapat menjanjikan imbal hasil 10-20% per tahun. So, kamu pilih investasi yang mana?
Ada nggak sih yang unik atau yang berkesan tuh apa yang kira-kira bisa di-share?
Dari sejak awal dulu bikin blog itu, cita-citaku adalah aku pengen bikin blog dengan foto-foto yang kualitasnya at least mendekati majalah lagi.
Welcome back. We're at the last segment. At the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement earlier today, JCI, we can see was open at the level of 5,964.03, and then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 6,013.3, and then the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session closing time. The index was closed at the level of 6,050.28, and in short, Jakarta Composite Index went up by 2.07%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement. We got finance sector as the leader of the strengthening trend, went up 3.07%, while miscellaneous industry went up 2.44%, basic industry sector went up 2.05%, and agricultural went up 1.85%. And then moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. BBCA went up 5.08% to the level of 31,525 rupiah per share, while BANK went up 6.82% to the level of 3,600 rupiah per share. Still from the banking sector, BBRI went up 4.57% to the level of 4,350 rupiah per share, while the mining sector is represented by Aneka Tambang or ANTM, went up 2.64% to the level of 2,330 rupiah per share. That's all for top gainers today. Meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we got BULL, went down 1.94% to the level of 304 rupiah per share. MLPL went down 1.79% to the level of 165 rupiah per share, while film went down 6.25% to the level of 525 rupiah per share. And from the mining sector, PTBA went down 1.63% to the level of 2,420 rupiah per share. Meantime, for the rupiah movement towards US dollar, rupiah opened at the level of 14,648. Rupiah was also showing weakening trend toward US dollar and was closed at the level of 14,591. In summary, rupiah went down 0.15% towards US dollar. Pavindo affirmed the rating of Barito Pacific and its sustainable bonds went to single A level, while the outlook for the corporate rating was revised to stable from previously negative.
Pavindo affirmed the rating of Barito Pacific and its sustainable bonds went to single A level, while the outlook for the corporate rating was revised to stable from previously negative. Based on Pavindo's report, the ratings for Barito Pacific and its bonds are valid for the period 8 April 2021 to 1 April 2022. Pavindo analyst Niken Indriarsi said that the outlook has been revised to stable from negative, reflecting Pavindo's view of improving Barito Pacific's liquidity position in the short to medium term. The company's liquidity was in line with the potential for cash inflows in the form of dividends from subsidiaries in the energy sector. Niken further said that the Barito Pacific rating would be raised if the company's performance improved, which could be reflected in the continuous improvement in its financial profile, especially financial leverage in the form of improving the debt to EBITDA ratio to less than 3 times. From Jakarta, IDX Channel team reported.
In line with better performance projection, the mining service contractor issuer Petrosi has allocated a capital expenditure of $85 million or equivalent to 1.24 trillion rupiah for 2021.
The mining service contractor issuer Petrosi has allocated a capital expenditure of $85 million or equivalent to 1.24 trillion rupiah for 2021. Petrosi Finance Director Romi Novan Indrawan stated that the company will use the capex allocation to renovate equipment, such as replacing components and supporting additional capacity as needed. Regarding funding sources, Romi said some of them would use the company's cash and bank loan facilities. Meanwhile, the company is targeting additional new contracts this year to reach $300 million. Management stated that there are a number of contract negotiations in progress, one of which is an EPC service contract with an estimated contract value of $112 million. The company's management explained that the company sees the prospect of better performance this year, supported by the increase in coal prices, which will also contribute positively to the price of coal mining contracts. IDX Channel team reported.
Even though sales decreased in 2020, IndiHome Pulp and Paper was still able to record a net profit of $294.05 million.
Even though last year's sales decreased, IndiHome Pulp and Paper was still able to record net profit. Throughout 2020, the company managed to book net profit of $294.05 million. This realization was up 7.17% from the company's net profit in 2019, which was $274.37 million. The increase in net profit was not accompanied by an increase in the top line. This enormous group paper issuer posted net sales of $2.98 billion, a decrease of 7.35% from 2019 revenue. In detail, IndiHome's revenue was still dominated by export sales, namely export sales to third parties worth $1.7 billion and sales to related parties worth $43.16 million. Meanwhile, local sales to related parties were valued at $1.25 billion and to third parties valued at $24.98 million. However, IndiHome projects that paper sales growth will increase by 10% this year. IDX Channel team reported.
And step aside from market condition as coronavirus pandemic takes big role in current economic situation. Here it is, an update data about coronavirus globally. And the news closes our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. I am Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening and stay safe.